All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Finlayson. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce McKenzie Barth today. McKenzie originally comes from Minnesota. She did her bachelor's at the University of Minnesota in agriculture at Twin Cities. She came to us for a master's in agronomy during summer 2020. I believe it's end of May 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. It's been quite an interesting ride. Um, Today, she's going to be talking about her research on organic cotton, particularly focusing on weed management and production agronomy. Over the past 2 years, we learned a lot about organic cotton production, some successes, and a lot of challenges that she's going to share with you today. Without any further ado, I will turn it over to Kenzie. Kenzie, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Muthu. So as he said, the bulk of my presentation will be on an agronomic evaluation of tillage and cover crops in organic cotton production. So before I get into that specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about the entire master's research. I have two objectives. The first one I'll be talking about today, to develop a sustainable organic cotton production system, comparing two systems of tillage and 4 cover crop treatments. And the second objective, to conduct an assessment of several living mulch candidate species and mixes for their usefulness in weed suppression and their impact on cotton yield. So my first project under my second objective was a living mulch research project in cotton. So I'm screening 22 species and mixes for their usefulness as a living mulch in cotton. We are looking at living mulch biomass, weed biomass, cotton yield, as well as a couple different metrics. And the second one is a competition study looking at many of those same living mulch species in as a to determine how they compete with cotton. And this is a greenhouse study. And my third one that I will be talking about for the bulk of today is organic cotton specifically. So why organic cotton? In the US, organic cotton is a $2 billion industry, and there is significant investment from industry in organic cotton production from companies like Ralph Lauren, H&M, Patagonia, as well as many others. Their goal is to source organic cotton domestically from the US. Organic cotton has a $24 billion economic impact in the US. This is from the Organic Trade Association. Texas leads US cotton production generally, like total cotton production, with 11.2 million acres. That's 56% of the acres planted in the US is just in Texas. And in the graph on the right, it shows that organic cotton production has risen significantly in South and Southeast Asia, as well as Central and Western Asia. It's risen significantly in the last 5 to 10 years, while in Northern America, it stayed mostly stagnant. So there's a lot of room for growth in organic cotton. Ooh, these are not my correct slides, excuse me. Well, I'll just go for it, I guess. This was supposed to say that tillage and cover crops are most often used as weed control for organic production, and vigorous tillage, vigorous cultivation, along with other methods of weed control can provide up to 90% weed control in organic production. So this project was an RCBD with 3 reps at the Texas A&M farm in Burleson County near Snook. We first started this in fall 2019 before I got here, and my data runs up through the fall of 2021. This followed USDA organic standards, and it will be certified in the fall or sometime in 2022 or 2023 because of that three-year organic transition period. For data analysis, I used RStudio version 4.1.0, Tukey's HSD, Pearson's correlation, and ANOVA. So 2 tillage regimes, conventional and minimum tillage. We'll get into more of what that specifically means in a minute. and 4 cover crop treatments, including oats, Austrian winter pea, purple top turnip, which is referenced as mustard because purple top turnip is a long name, and a mix of those 3. Also, a conventional till weedy and weed-free check, and a minimum till weedy check, and an alternate weed control check, because we could not hand hoe in a minimum till system that we were supposed to keep the soil undisturbed. So these are the differences in tillage specifically. So in 2020, the minimum till treatment received 0 cultivations. So we strip tilled before cotton planting, planted into that strip, and the soil was left undisturbed for the rest of the growing season. In the conventional till, the field was prepared and planted, and then received 1 inter-row cultivation during the growing season. And after seeing how that went in 2020, we decided to up the number of cultivations with the same general process: minimum till, strip till in the spring, and then 1 cultivation during the growing season, and conventional 2 cultivations during the growing season. So in 2020, these are some of the alternate weed control methods that I got to try out. So on the right, that is a propane torch, a common, maybe not common, but one method of weed control in organic production is to use flaming. Unfortunately, in 2020, we did not have the time or resources to get an industrial type flamer. So I went out there with a propane torch and burned some weeds to death, which was pretty fun. And I also tried using literally a push mower between the rows of cotton, which it fit very nicely, just to try to knock down that weed biomass a little bit. Both of them were generally unsuccessful. And as you can see, this is what most of my minimum till plots looked like for a good deal of the growing season. So some of the data I collected: weed emergence and species. Did 3 quadrats in each plot once a month, so 3 times through the summer, and then identified species as well. Weed biomass and species several times through the summer, so collected quadrats of weed biomass. Took cotton height, cotton biomass, cotton yield at the end of the growing season, and we did a soil seed bank analysis starting in the spring of 2020 and again in the fall of 2020. So this is a more detailed timeline of our field activities, does not include data collection. So in the fall of 2019, the first round of cover crops were planted. May 22nd, 2020, cover crops were terminated. The applied poultry litter, which is our fertilizer because this is an organic system, and tilled the conventional till plots before cotton planting. And we planted our cotton on June 2nd, 2020. This is pretty late, but because of COVID and staffing shortages and a long list of challenges, this was the earliest we were able to get it in. So July 3rd through 15th was when I was out there with the propane torch and the push mower, trying to control those weeds in the minimum till plots, and also when we cultivated the conventional till plots. So those weed control events occurred at about the same time. October 22nd through 29th, 2020 was when we defoliated and harvested cotton. We defoliated with a 30% vinegar solution, and we shredded the biomass because there was a lot of both cotton biomass and weed biomass left in the field. We decided to burn the remaining biomass, which was also really fun, and tilled the conventional plots after that was done. And November 19th, 2020, the cover crops were planted. There's our second round of cover crops. So this is what that burning looked like. Again, I took the same propane torch and just set the field on fire. It was a controlled burn, of course. And 2021 field management activities. March 18th, we terminated our cover crops. April 7th, we applied poultry litter. April 16th through the 19th, we tilled plots before planting and then planted cotton. A much better timeline if you're going for cotton yield. And May 19th, we we cultivated the conventional plots for the first time. And if you remember last spring, it rained a lot, and that was very bad news for organic producers such as me. So we basically did not get any weed control for a month in the beginning of the cotton season. So June 11th, we terminated the first planting of cotton and planted again on June 25th, 2021, which was even later than 2020's planting. And July 19th and 26th, the conventional till plots got 2 cultivations, so 1 each date. November 15th, we harvested cotton by hand, and November 24th, we planted the 3rd round of cover crops. So this is to show you what the field looked like in early June. That red circle is the only cotton plant I could find in this picture. So that was why we decided to terminate it. And this is an aerial picture of my entire organic experiment at that time. So there was no salvaging this, which was very unfortunate, but this is what organic producers have to go through as well. So weed emergence, once again, 3 quadrats in each plot, many reps. The p-values, there were only 3 significant differences. So what this means is that the number and type of weeds were generally not different across the entire experiment, across the entire field. So generally, each plot had about the same number of weeds emerging. So this is a minimum till plot on the left and a conventional till plot on the right. It's a very drastic change. This is from 2020. That was when we saw the most drastic differences between those 2 treatments. And this is mid-season cotton biomass from 2020. Conventional till is in blue and minimum till is in pink. There is only 1 minimum till treatment, and that is because the stand counts were so low in those plots. I decided that if I was to harvest cotton for biomass, I would not have any cotton to take yield from in the end of the season. So essentially 0, but I didn't actually take the data. So conventional weed free and winter pea did the best, and conventional weedy, oddly enough, did the best in cotton biomass production. And cotton yield in 2020. Once again, a very significant difference between conventional till in the blue and minimum till in the pink. Minimum till had basically 0 yield across cover crop species. And conventional till mustard was consistently a strong performer across these. And this is 2021 organic cotton yield. So you can see the difference here between both years that 1 single cultivation can make. And these are on the same scale, so they're comparable. So 1 single cultivation in the minimum till makes it a lot muddier picture to look at. Whereas in 2020, it's pretty clear that not cultivating is not feasible. But 1 single cultivation can easily save your crop. So at the end of the season, we took weed biomass and also harvested. So this is the interaction between those 2. This is 2020 data. Minimum till is in blue, mostly in the right on the bottom, and conventional till is in like the pinky peach color. R squared was 0.7118, so a pretty strong interaction there. And generally, this is telling us that the more weed biomass you have in a plot, the lower yield is going to be. And 2021, we had a similar interaction with an R squared of 0.56. But again, it's a lot muddier because of additional cultivations through all of the plots. So some conclusions I drew. Reducing tillage in organic cotton production is challenging. Not to say that it is impossible, but tillage itself cannot be replaced by cover crops alone. Incorporating things like vinegar as a weed control, like as an organic herbicide, is promising. And also flamers, they are promising for organic weed control in Texas, but they need more research. And weed biomass has a very strong effect on cotton lint yield. And I would like to thank the entire Bagavathiannan lab, all of the undergraduate students that have helped me on my project, Nithya Rajan lab, specifically Musfik, and the Jake Maurer lab, specifically Parker, as well as Dan Levy and Daniel Hathcote for fieldwork and assistance. And this project was a USDA NEFA funded grant for organic transition. Thank you.
Questions? Who's got a question? Oh. Notice I changed my shoes. It's probably not as fast as my other shoes, but hopefully a little quieter.
Great presentation. My one question would be, say if you wanted to do just one tilling pass, when would you suggest that the farmer does that? Like what time in the growing season?
That's a good question. I would say within a month of cotton planting, because if you wait too long, it's too late, like the yield damage is done. But if you do it immediately after cotton planting, that might not be enough time to protect the cotton, since cotton is very sensitive to weed control. So sometime within the first month, I would say.
Great presentation. Do you know like the percentage of farmers that are using minimal till and not going out there and cultivate, like a very rough, would you even say like 10% are?
For organic production?
Yeah.
I have no idea. If I had to guess, I would say not very much.
You mentioned that you use vinegar as a weed control method, and I think you mentioned it was what you use to defoliate as well. Is that correct? Does that work well? Is that common in organic production? Okay.
So 30% organic vinegar is a common herbicide in organic production. Some trip ups that you have to watch for is you have to apply it on a very sunny day, because if it's not direct sunlight, it won't really have an effect. Yeah, and it's a common organic defoliant as well.
Can you go back to your 2020 graph of weed population versus yield, I think it was?
Yes.
Okay, so if you break that data out, leave out the minimal till, do you see a relationship between cotton lint and weed biomass if you get rid of your minimum till?
Like by cover crop?
Well, I guess let's say you never did minimum till. Just look at your conventional. What sort of relationship do you as a scientist see there?
Generally, yes. So generally it correlates well with the best performers over here. So like mustard and winter pea had very low weed biomass production, as well as oat, but oat's cotton yields were a little lower, presumably because it locks up more nutrients as a high biomass producer.
Thank you.
The conventional tilled plots are in between the rows of cotton, right? During the season.
Yeah, we tilled them in between those.
So how do you keep weeds out of the in the row of cotton, like in between the cotton?
So my project didn't have a way to address that. There's new technology like finger weeders that can go right up in between and up to the cotton plants. in the weed-free plots, we went out there with like hand hose to get rid of all of the weeds.
So how is organic cotton different from the conventional cotton?
In what aspect do you mean, Rohit?
Just in case if the organic cotton gets a higher premium, why is it?
It's because of the organic certification. I do not know very much about organic fiber quality. That was not part of my research at all, but it's really the organic sticker that gives it the higher price.
The sticker, that's the thing.
So you mentioned that there were about $2 billion in the organic market per year in the United States. Is that of organic cotton produced, or is that of organic cotton products that are sold?
And the reason I asked that is because you also showed acres of cotton. And I don't know organic producers that are getting as much money as you indicate times the yield times that gets me to 2 billion. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, that was organic products.
So like my organic blue jeans.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
I
comes
got
from
it.
organic cotton.
Questions? We got any questions in the chat? Anybody in the virtual reality want to chime in?
As part of this project, I was curious, did you see any effect of different cover crops? Like which cover crop would you see the best to suppress the weed? You have the yield here, looks like cover crops have some reduced yield, but in terms of weed control, which one is the best?
I would probably say the mustard or the purple top turnip. I really didn't expect that. I expected the oats to do the best, but mustard consistently performed really well, both in cotton yield and in weed suppression.
Other questions?
Why didn't you use ryegrass?
You used all broadleaves that are the same.
Well, we did have oats, and I was not a part of the planning, so I did not get a say in it. So I could ask Muthu why we didn't use ryegrass, but I don't actually know specifically.
Yeah, so now that you asked the question, we thought oat is probably better. Maybe Jake is the one who suggested oats instead of cereal rye. Jake. But anyway, so from our experience, what did pretty good as cereal rye, and both are cereals. And in fact, you get more biomass with oats than cereal rye in our environment. So that's one of the reasons why we picked oat over cereal rye, if I remember correctly.
Grass, not cereal rye.
He was asking about ryegrass, not cereal rye.
Oh, you mean Italian ryegrass?
Well, that stuff you spend your career killing.
Come on, Dr. B. We're spending all our time trying to control Italian ryegrass. Now you're asking us to plant Italian ryegrass.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, let's thank our speaker again.